Hey, what's going on? This is Drew from Original Motor Car, and as you can see behind me, I am at a car show, but this is more than just a car show. This is the Bowtie Nationals. It's an all-GM event. It's actually the country's largest all-GM event. We're at the kickoff event in Beach Bend in Bowling Green, Kentucky. As you see behind me, there's an autocross. Back behind that, there are free dyno runs, and even further back behind that, there's drag racing. So there's something here for every auto enthusiast. Whether you like vintage cars, new cars, trucks, whatever you like, if it's got GM sheet metal and a GM engine in it, you can see it here, you can experience it here, and you can have a great time. So if you're just finding out about the Bowtie Nationals and you haven't come to this show, you're in luck because there's 2 more shows this year. There's another show in Norwalk, Ohio in June, and another show after that in Indianapolis in September. So we'll show you what's happening at this show, and you can get a little preview for the shows to come later this year. So we're actually going to ride around in a golf cart with the show's organizer because there's a lot of ground to cover, and he's going to show us a little bit about what makes this show so special. I am here with the show's
co-owner and
organizer, Chris Baker. I said before in one of the interviews we shot earlier today that I was talking to the hardest working man in the automotive show business, but I think actually Chris is probably the hardest working man. That was Jeff, your MC.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think Jeff would be working if he wasn't working harder. So I think Chris takes the cake there. But Chris is going to roll us around the park here, tell us what's going on here. And the cool thing is this is going to give us a really good preview of what's happening in Norwalk and Indianapolis coming up later this summer.
That's right. We're here at Beach Bend. So we started this Bowtie Nationals last year at Bristol Motor Speedway. It was an all Chevy event. We decided to go ahead and open it up to all GM bodied and GM powered vehicles. So no like LS powered Mustangs or no dragsters.
It's got to be GM sheet metal.
That's right. General Motors got on board with Chevrolet Performance and very supportive of what we do. They like what we're doing, and we have quarter-mile drag racing. We have, of course, a huge auto show with cars and trucks. Well, the other thing we do is we allow all generations. So it doesn't matter if it's, I say, classic to current. Doesn't matter if it's old, new. We allow all of them in, and obviously any GM powertrain combo. So that's a little bit unique, I think, to what we're doing here. We have Autocross at almost every event other than Norwalk.
Okay.
But CPP's been on board with us at all of our Autocross events that we've always done. And the swap meet, dyno, and vendor midway, of course. So my first event here was in 2015, and I co-founded the Tri-5 Nationals here at Beach Bend. Hey, by the way, we talked about co-owning the event.
Yeah.
This is the other side of the event.
Got it. Hey, I'm Drew. Good to meet you.
Nice to meet
Thanks for welcoming us in and letting us shoot some stuff here.
you. No problem.
We're giving everybody that's coming to Norwalk and Indianapolis a little preview of what they'll be in for there, showing them what's going on here.
Sounds good. We appreciate you coming.
Absolutely. Oh, I see all the awards over there.
So yeah,
Nice.
we've got over 130 awards.
Wow.
So I've got a bunch of them in boxes that we don't set up until right before because sometimes the wind will create chaos.
Okay.
I've been in the automotive business industry 30 years, anywhere from oil changes to dealerships, but my background is marketing and advertising. I have worked at Jegs for 13 years as their creative director, and I left about 11 years ago and met Ken and did a catalog for him. And then I wanted to do an event after the Tri-5 event here, and I sold my half of that to Chris, and I said, Ken, let's go do a Camaro Firebird show. So we did a Camaro Firebird show in Memphis for a couple of years, and then we started the C10 Nationals in Texas.
Okay. And is that just sort of the outgrowth of the popularity of trucks right now, the C10 Nationals?
Yeah, this was in 2017, we were talking about it, and then in 2018 is when we did our first show there in Texas. Now we do 3 of those, one in Las Vegas, one in Nashville, and then one still in Fort Worth.
Okay.
And we do 2 other truck shows. We do a Truck Fest in Atlanta and C10 Shindig in Kansas City. I also am co-owner of CK Truck Magazine, a publication that covers GM trucks.
So it sounds like as one's winding down, you're just getting started on the next one, coming up in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I had a guy ask me one time, he goes, why don't you have a lot of like nice cars? I said, well, just about every dime I've made in the last 13 years, I've reinvested into this little empire that I'm trying to build.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of nice things, but I like to have big shows and continue to grow. And
Well, you don't own them personally, but you have all of these in terms of your fan base,
Right.
and the support base.
Right.
So
We've got
there's incredible stuff here. I mean, just the amount of variety I've seen is wild. I mean, truly wild to mild.
and a lot of anywhere from original to completely crazy. We passed some stuff that was very modified. I think there's a need in the market for an all GM event that welcomes the Buicks, the Olds, the Pontiacs, the Cadillacs, the
Sure.
GMC trucks, with our kind of establishment within the GM truck community. We're pretty good following with these events with the truck guys too. Some of the events that have been around a while. At first, they kind of shunned the truck crap, the truck guys.
Yeah.
Well, now, 15, 20 years later, trucks are kind of the popular thing now. I think they're kind of the new hot rod, and that's the market that's actually spending money. So we've got a good relationship and a good following with a lot of those guys that own trucks.
What are the economics of a show like this? Yesterday was a little rainy, and you have that sometimes. Today's beautiful. So when you come into an event like this, are you saying one day I can break even, 2 days I make a profit, or is it head count? How does that all work?
Typically, I would even start with just naming an event. Before I name anything, I make sure the URL's available. I make sure the name's available. Nobody else is using it. The Bowtie Nationals. It was something I've been rolling around for at least 5 years. I bought the URL, and that nobody else that I knew of was using it, and I immediately filed for a trademark so that I can protect my investment before I even get it off the ground.
Yeah.
And then you got to find a track. You got to make sure that the weather's going to be good that time of year, or the best it can be, right? Tracks a lot of times have full schedules, and then you got to go in and find a title sponsor, a presenting sponsor. That's when you really have a show come together. But to answer your question, we allow pre-registration, so that money comes in and the vendor money comes in. That kind of helps pay for the event with some of the other sponsorships.
Okay.
And all of the advertising and marketing that goes with it. And then after that, usually like the day of registrations and the day of, say, drag racers, those are maybe, you might put a little bit of money in your pocket with those. And then the other thing would be merchandise. You put a little bit of money in there with merchandise. But spectators really, the gate is really the gold mine for us the day of the event. But to have a successful event, I think it takes three things. It takes vehicles, it takes vendors and sponsors, and it takes people, right? It sounds elementary, but really, vendors and sponsors want to come and sell things. And if you don't have the right people there, if your demographic is too old, they're not buying it. My dad's 74. He's not buying anything anymore. His car is under a tarp in the barn. He brings it out, but he's not buying new wheels or new brakes or new interior. So you got to have that right combo of people so that the vendors and sponsors stay happy, and then you got to give the people something to look at. And so you got to have a good car turnout. So without one, you just don't have an event. But
So where in the show field, where does your heart lie? What's your favorite make and model, GM make and model? Or do you even have a favorite? I mean, it might be like saying what's your favorite kid. I don't know.
one day I'll have a 55 gasser.
Okay.
But right now I have a 66 Cadillac sedan DeVille. I'm the second owner. I have a 50 GMC truck that's fully restored, all aftermarket chassis, but that's a family heirloom vehicle.
Okay.
But my favorites are really the 58, 59 cars and trucks. That the Apache truck and then the 58, 59 Chevys. I really like. And I owned some 4th gen Firebirds when I was young, so I'm partial to the 4th gen Camaro Firebirds, 82 to 92 Camaro Firebirds.
Here's some of our crew talking about the documentary that we've done. Hey ladies! Hey! Just a quick plug for our project. So we connected with Chris through a mutual connection, and he has been kind enough to allow us to come in and shoot some video at the show and kind of help promote for the show in return for us promoting for the film that we've worked on, which was the Norwood factory. We've created a feature-length documentary about that plant, that historically significant plant where Camaros and Firebirds, interesting that we were talking about that,
Right.
Just as that came up. where the Camaro and Firebird Trans Am were born. Very first Camaro that ever rolled off the line was in Norwood. It was also the first plant that took production 24 hours, the first that GM employed robotic welding, lots of historic firsts. And in 1972, it led the longest industrialized strike of any industry, which resulted in, unfortunately, 1,100 cars that were stuck on the assembly line when that strike happened, having to go to a crusher because safety standards changed between 72 and 73. So that's why if you see a higher price sticker on a 73 Firebird or Camaro, it's usually going to be a little more rare and a little more pricey because of that reason. I am just blown away at the variety of stuff to do. I mean, I've been to some big car shows, but to have an autocross event and a drag race and vendors and just such a variety of like cars all in one compact area like this, it's really great.
People have so many options today with social media and our phones and ways of entertaining themselves that an event today needs to be interactive to keep people's attention. We want to keep young people's attention especially, so having all of the different activities, and some of them are interactive with people, even spectators, they can participate in those, I think is what adds to having a successful event like this.
This is the second year for this show, is that correct?
Yeah, this is 2025 is the second year. The first year, we tried to get things off the ground. We were at Bristol. We had rain both days. We didn't really drag race. We ended up just doing some testing tunes. And then at Indy, we had a hurricane, that same one that hit, western North Carolina. So we're really glad to be here at Beach Bend. We're kind of actually finally getting some traction and getting some growth on this event.
So tell me a little bit about what the differences are going to be in the Norwalk show and the Indy show versus here, and what'll be the same, what'll be different.
It's going to be pretty much the same event. In Norwalk, we don't have the room to do an autocross.
Okay.
But all three events will have all the other components. Obviously different customers, but...
So if you can't make this one, make sure to plan for Norwalk or Indy.
Right.
And those are coming up in, what are the dates?
So Norwalk is early June, first weekend in June, and then Indy is middle of September.
Okay, got it.
When I was 16 or 17 years old, I met a guy in high school, and he had an 83 Camaro. And at the time, I didn't even know what a Camaro was. And I just remember going, that's one of those cool cars.
Yeah.
And the car was probably 10 years old at the time. We would swap motors and do different things and flip cars. And then I went to art school, actually. And once I got out of art school, and I worked at oil change places and tire places when I was in school. And then when I got out of school, I started working at places doing catalogs in this industry, Jegs and Motor State. And then once I left Jegs, I started my own agency, and then that turned into doing my first event, which was here that I talked about. And now I still have the agency, and I have the magazine now, and I have some merchandise lines, but now I also we have 8 shows this year, and next year it'll probably be 10 or 11 shows. Even with our vendors and sponsors, we have a pretty loyal following.
Yeah.
But with that marketing and advertising background, I think that definitely helps.
So are there specific metrics that a sponsor might look for coming out of a show, or are you saying, I want to build a long-term relationship, this is what we're doing, big picture, are you in or are you out? How does that typically work?
The first year we did the Tri-5 show here, I went around to every vendor and shook their hands and introduced myself and thanked them for coming and asked them how the show was and if there's anything we could do that could we do better and what we do right. And I still do that today.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of compliments from vendors that say, you guys are the easiest event we deal with and we did great here, and that's important to me. I want them to do well. If they don't do well, they won't come back, and they won't they won't write a check for next year to come out. And so a lot of the vendors end up becoming sponsors because they want their name more involved with the event.
Well, everybody that I've talked to so far seems like they're having a blast. Everyone's been super friendly. And I think the cool thing about this is, like, you can come into this completely green and not have a clue about what makes that 69 Camaro different than that 57 Chevy. But you can still enjoy it just for the fun of it, the weather, just seeing a little bit of like history through automotive production through the years. And if you are a gearhead or a car junkie or whatever, I mean, there's plenty of stuff to get into here. It's really, really cool.
Autocross, I've heard about autocross for years, but I never really thought too much about it. But if you get in a real autocross vehicle and drive or take a ride like we can do here, you might get hooked. I got 3 daughters, and one of my daughters, she took a ride, and now she's building a truck just because she's hooked on the adrenaline rush that you get off taking a ride in one of those things.
Yeah.
My 13-year-old daughter's here today. It's her first drag race.
Oh, nice.
She's out in the starting line, videoing with her phone, sending it to all of her friends.
That's
She's
great.
just like, it's the coolest thing. Not enough people get out and experience something like this. Even a big intro race with the top fuel cars. If you've never experienced a top fuel car in person, you're missing out. It will change your life.
Absolutely. So if people want to learn more, kind of start planning for the future shows, is it just bowtienationals.com?
Yeah, I try to keep it simple. Bowtienationals.com, C10nationals.com. Those are our 2 big events. We got some other stuff in store for next year that we haven't announced yet. But
Can you give us a hint?
let's just say an East versus West, all in at some very large tracks.
Okay.
That'll be juggernaut events. And when I say everything's welcome, I mean everything from an MG to a Volkswagen
Very
to
cool.
a Camaro to a Corvette to a, yeah,
Anything that moves under whatever power.
4 wheels.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I do what I do because I like it. I get up in the morning, I got a great job. You know, a lot of people go, oh, it's a dream. It's a gamble. It's not for everybody. Like we had yesterday, it rained. We talked about that a little bit earlier. And then you have a day like today where it's a big score. So you usually win big or you lose big. But my philosophy on that is not only with my parents, because they're here this weekend,
Oh,
but
that's great.
but you know, all those people that came before them, grandparents, and then all the other generations and wherever they came from, you know, all over the world, that put me in a position that I'm in the position I'm in today. Man, I got to take advantage of every single day. If I'm not, I feel like I'm cheating all those people that I'll never meet. So that's why I do what I do. That's why I have the passion I do. I put everything into it just because I owe it to those, and I owe it to my family and my kids, and I love it. I mean, look at this. I'm just a ding dong that went to art school, and here I am. You know, we're having some of the fastest growing events in the United States.
Yeah, nobody would do this that doesn't love it. So your passion comes through for sure.
It's not easy on the marriage sometimes, but
Yeah, I can imagine.
it's just it's the world we're in now, and it's what I've chosen to do. So I wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, thanks for showing us around. Thanks for bringing us in. And definitely, if you have not checked it out yet, go to bowtienationals.com. Start planning your trip now for Norwalk, Ohio, Indianapolis, Indiana, coming up in June and September. Thanks, Chris.
Hey, thanks guys.
So I hope you've enjoyed checking out some of the things that makes this show so cool. You can see everything from this Nova with a blown engine that is super, super rad to a completely stock Chevy Camaro, everything in between. Tri-5 Chevys, whatever you like, it's here. So I hope you've enjoyed checking out this look. Make sure to plan for future Bowtie Nationals events, and thanks for watching.